The College Board says that for a typical student, even a low budget for living expenses comes to almost $17,000 a year, with housing making up nearly half the cost. No part-time job could ever put a dent in that, which may explain why more and more students are finding themselves out in the cold. Our cover story is reported by Cowan.
Jasmine Bigham, a college senior, can almost taste graduation. Like most students here at Humboldt State University, nestled in the shade of the California redwoods, finals are coming, and she's studying hard. But it's her life outside her college classroom that may be the toughest test of all.
The hardest thing was just not being able to find housing. And so that was the big issue that stood in my way.
So what'd you do?
I lived in my car and then I kind of couch surfed. After that, I moved into this big trailer. And then the trailer roof collapsed a little bit.
All of that makes the van she now lives in seem not so bad. Yes, a van. She lives here in a parking lot, not far from the library.
Here is where I keep all my bathroom supplies. And then here is where I keep my pots and pans.
Being homeless isn't something you'd expect from a student on a Ford Family Foundation scholarship. But even that money wasn't enough to help with the high cost of housing near campus.
There was some emotional points, where I just was crying because it was hard. How I think about things is I put myself here, so I had to deal with it.
But you put yourself here for a good reason, though, to get through school.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a goal at the end of the tunnel, I guess.
Every morning, she makes her way to a women's locker room on campus. Here, she brushes her teeth, showers, and then heads off to class. Later, it's back to the van.
What is it that's so important for you to go to school and get your degree that you'd sort of put yourself through all of this?
I'm going to go become something, and I'm going to succeed in it and keep trying. If things are hard, you just got to keep trying.
The number of homeless college students struggling just like Jasmine is hard to quantify, but it's big. According to financial aid applications, there are more than 68,000 students who claim to be homeless.
I think the idea that hardworking, talented people who are trying to get an education are being derailed by homelessness is a crisis.
Sarah Goldrick-Rabb is the leading national researcher on the problem. She's founder of the Hope Center and a professor of higher education policy at Temple University in Philadelphia.
One of the things that's changed in the United States over time is that if you grow up without money, we have sent a pretty strong signal to those students that financial aid is available and you should try college because it's your route out of poverty.
So part of the problem is that people who weren't going to college before
go to college now. It's hard to view that as a problem. I'd say the problem is that they're going to college but we didn't build the support for them.
Unlike elementary and secondary school students whose families can get some support from things like federal free breakfast and lunch programs, for college students, much of that assistance dries up.
every time you tell people about this problem, they seem surprised,
right,
shocked.
Exactly. I mean, it's been hidden. I think a lot of people didn't talk about it. I also think that most people just think about tuition. They don't think about living.
Some of those struggling with housing responded to a recent survey that Goldrick-Rabb conducted. It was the largest of its kind ever done, involving more than 43,000 students at 66 institutions. The result? Nearly 1 in 10 college students said they were homeless in the last year, meaning they had at least one night where they didn't know where they were going to sleep.
I tend to think the people who are struggling the most are not taking our surveys. And that's the part that scares me, right? Is the possibility...
But you don't know how deep the problem really is.
The problem is actually a lot worse.
Colleges generally don't like to talk about homelessness, she says, and neither do most students. Dom Cornell is a 22-year-old undergraduate at DePaul University in Chicago.
I didn't want anybody to look at me different.
So you just kept it to yourself?
Yeah. There's that underlying feeling of just shame. That feeling of loneliness.
He's studying political science with the hopes of one day going to law school.
My dad never went to college. My mom never went to college. I would be the first person. I knew I had to do it.
Dom's parents have been out of the picture since childhood. His mom had struggled with addiction, and his dad has been in and out of prison. Money for his tuition comes from a patchwork of funding: scholarships, student loans, and some financial aid. He stretched all of that as far as he could. But last spring, he found himself living in a shelter outside of town.
Sometimes you don't make it to the shelter in time because you have to be there at a certain time to get in. Sometimes I had to sleep in parks or in forests.
How often would you go hungry?
Like 2 days without really eating a meal.
2 days?
I hate to say it, but I've eaten out of the trash before. When you're just trying to survive, you'll do whatever it takes.
He had to sneak onto a commuter train just to get to class most days. And one day, it almost became too much to bear.
As passionate as I was about my classes and about the things I was learning about, it just got too hard to be homeless. I remember I was standing on the platform of the L train, and honestly, I thought about jumping, just giving up.
What kept you from jumping?
I think it was knowing very well that there are a lot more kids like me.
DePaul USA, a national homeless charity, has seen the problem all across the country, and in Chicago started a homeless housing program called DOCS, designed just for students. At least this house, where it could offer at least a half a dozen students a low-cost place to stay, as long as they keep up their grades and do chores around the house.
A lot of these students either had a place to call home and lost it, or never had a place to call home ever.
Abe Morris, the director here, has never forgotten the day Dom came asking for help.
He came into my office and I said, "Hey, have you eaten today?" He's like, "You know what?" I said, "Let's go get lunch." And in the middle of the lunch, he stopped eating. He said, "Abe, I'm sorry, I can't eat no more because I don't eat that often. My stomach is shrinking, I can't eat that much food." And at that point, it hit me like, oh my gosh, like this guy needs someplace to go now.
So Abe converted an office into one more bedroom, an act that very likely saved Dom's life.
It's still surreal to me. I still wake up sometimes and it's like, well, I'm here.
Even now, still?
Yeah, even now. I feel like a weight is lifted off my shoulders. Like I can concentrate on my classes. I made it on the dean's list.
Congrats.
I had never done so well during a college quarter.
But you never had the stability before.
That's all I needed.
Homelessness is indiscriminate. It can affect anyone, anywhere. Sarah Goldrick-Rabb has found students struggling all across the country, from big universities to rural colleges.
There are middle-class people going through these problems, and they're going through them for the very first time in college. Most people don't realize the research on homelessness indicates that one of the guiding factors contributing to homelessness is just bad luck.
Luck isn't something most educators can spot, even if they see these struggling students every day.
I remember walking across campus one day and a young man walked up to me and he says, "Are you the college president?" And I said, "Yes, I am." He says, "Well, I want to talk to you because I live under a freeway." And he ended by saying, "And I want you to know that there are other students on campus just like me."
Catherine Jeffrey is president of Santa Monica College in Los Angeles. It doesn't offer housing, but the school has tried to address students who are going hungry by offering food pantries, like this one.
So we have a variety of canned beans and ravioli and, of course, peanut butter.
All the college staples.
All the college staples.
While helpful, they're not the healthiest options. So, students worked with administrators to organize this farmers market.
Hey, potato!
Where fresh fruits and vegetables are handed out each week.
Thank you.
No questions asked. But perhaps the most innovative idea came from UCLA students, who, with the help of donations and grants, set up the Students for Student Shelter in a Santa Monica church.
So this is our kitchen.
It's completely run by more than 80 student volunteers, like Jordan Vega.
We have 4 student volunteers from UCLA who are on site every day. We cook dinner for the residents. We eat together. We really bond with each other.
It's a community.
It's a community.
Maritza Lopez knows she was lucky to get in. There's a waiting list of at least 100 students.
So that's my bed right there.
She's studying art history at nearby Santa Monica College and shares this small room with 9 other homeless students. As small as it is, it's co-ed.
So you don't have a lot of privacy here, though, do you?
I think it's pretty private. I can't really ask for too much because I've been given a lot.
Because the students who run it also have to go to class, the shelter has to empty out from 7 in the morning all the way until 7 at night. Usually, Maritza passes that time by studying on campus.
I always kind of say, hey, let me think about today and tomorrow. How am I going to survive? Like, what can I do today? What can I do tomorrow?
So where does all that optimism come from?
I don't know. Got a little soul in here, right?
You have a big soul, I think.
This past June, Maritza got her associate's degree, graduating with honors.
It's good. It's not high honors, but
You say that like you're shy about it. That's fantastic.
it hurts though, like knowing that what if I did have a place to live? I could have done way better than what I'm doing now.
Maritza is now out of that shelter, and she's working on her bachelor's at her dream school, UCLA, which is covering her tuition. It was the volunteers at the Students for Students shelter who helped hook her up with cheap housing near campus. As for Jasmine Bigham, she and her van have finally left that parking lot. Last month, she graduated from Humboldt State with a degree in kinesiology, with hopes of becoming either a teacher or an athletic trainer. We will likely never know just how many homeless students start college but then have to leave without their degrees. An elusive statistic that Dom Cornell says is actually a loss for everyone.
We don't want to be looked at as, oh, there goes that homeless college kid. We're future lawyers. We're future doctors and future politicians and nurses and teachers. We may be homeless, but we're a lot more than that too.